the meat.
Tonight, we're learning more about the motorcycle gang at the center of a federal investigation. The United States Attorney for the Southern District of Ohio updated us earlier today about a series of raids last night in Xenia.
Yeah, and as we were there at this home on Colorado Drive was raided, Eli Burgett was at a news conference this morning and has what we know so far.
Well, we know that on Tuesday, June 11th, a grand jury indicted 14 members of the Dayton chapter of the Thug Riders Motorcycle Club. Last night, both federal and local law enforcement agencies teamed up to carry out several raids in multiple states to arrest those who were indicted. This morning, we learned the names of the individuals involved and what they are accused of.
The indictment in this case alleges that the Thug Rider Motorcycle Club operated a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in acts of violence like murder, arson, and assault. They also participated in acts of extortion and identity fraud.
Last night, 14 members of the Thug Riders Motorcycle Club were arrested in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, and Arizona based on various criminal allegations. Some of those allegations included murder, assault, and other violent crimes. The larger organization has been in place since 2003, but agents say the Dayton chapter was founded in 2019 by this man, Juan Robles. They say this chapter has been on their radar for years as Robles rose through the ranks of power within the club. Police hope that his arrest will send a message to the larger international organization.
Juan Robles was instrumental in the establishment of this chapter and rose to a significant level of leadership. Now, again, that's why it was important to not only address him regardless of the leadership position, but him being in that leadership position should impact the organization overall.
Agents say that these crimes date all the way back to May of 2021 and include blowing up the vehicle of a former club member in Huber Heights, killing a man during a shootout in Harrison Township, and physically assaulting members of another motorcycle gang in London, Ohio. With the larger organization having over 20 years of history, federal law enforcement believes that there could be a larger history of violence as well.
The Thug Riders Motorcycle Club maintains a multi-level chain of command. So for us, it is significant to hit the club appropriately at every level.
All 14 indicted individuals of the Thug Riders are now in custody and will have detention hearings currently scheduled for Tuesday, June 18th. Back to you.
Now, one of the charges the group faces is violating the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, also known as RICO. It increases the penalties for those who participate in organized crime. Tonight, we're taking a closer look on what exactly that means to be charged with that.
Gwyneth Falloon is live from the federal courthouse tonight. She's been following this story since multiple homes were raided just yesterday morning. So, Gwen, walk us through what exactly RICO is and what does it prevent, or what does it aim to prevent?
The RICO Act really gives authorities more access to additional resources to really help bring criminals to justice. Now, I sat down with Vipul Patel. He is the former acting U.S. District Attorney in the Southern District of Ohio, and he tells me RICO charges are extremely difficult to prove.
I can tell you this much, that this is not the first time that this particular United States Attorney's Office has brought RICO conspiracy charges.
Former acting U.S. District Attorney Vipul Patel saying the Southern District of Ohio has a history of charging people in violation of the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, also known as RICO.
It's a real powerful statute, allows the prosecutors, it gives a lot of ammunition to the prosecutors by bringing all these bad acts in front of the jury so the jury gets to hear and see all about it.
That's exactly what we saw in Friday's indictment in the wide-ranging conspiracy case involving the Thug Riders Motorcycle Club, a motorcycle gang with the Dayton chapter. 14 members are accused of taking part in gang-related activity, including in some cases murder and extortion.
We've had several motorcycle gangs in our communities. A lot of it was local street gangs, controlling their neighborhoods, selling dope. That's where a lot of our violence came from. But we also had the outlaws, we had different motorcycle gangs, and we had 3 Mexican drug cartels here.
Representative Phil Plummer, the former Montgomery County Sheriff, warning gangs and organized group crime is not new to the Miami Valley. Enforcing RICO helps get dangerous criminals off the streets.
Remember when we had the Salem Mall? Gangs shut down the Salem Mall because you had to assault people at the Salem Mall to become a gang member, and it destroyed the Salem Mall.
While the RICO Act is simple in some parts, it's just as complex in others.
If the government can prove that there was an agreement between individuals, even if that person was never there, right, and that person knowingly and voluntarily, entered into that conspiracy, knowing and seeking to aid the objective of that conspiracy, they're going to be held criminally liable.
These groups also often consider members family, which University of Dayton law professor emeritus Tom Hagel says could make finding witnesses a challenge.
And that's why they have such problems sometimes with prosecutions in terms of getting lower level people, for example, to turn on the higher level people. A lot of them will go to prison, even though they might be able to make a deal. But if they make a deal, they may have some form of retribution.
RICO also often takes years to RICO cases, they often take years to put together, really collecting information from across the state and the country, and that happens long before any action is really taken and charges are brought forward. Now, that's likely because authorities want the evidence they've gathered to stand in court. Back to you.
Tonight, we know a suspect behind bars in connection to a 17-year-old murder cold case. Dayton police say back in 2007, Patricia Peck was found murdered in the backseat of her car at a Dayton airport hotel. The cold case unit has now been working with Ohio BCI for the last several months on the case and arrested a suspect just yesterday. Police say the suspect's identity will not be released until they have been officially charged.
The man accused of kidnapping his ex-girlfriend escaped custody while being taken for treatment after his arrest. Jeremiah Wilcox brings us up to speed on the search now underway for Quintel Bagley.
It all started here when Bagley was taken to Fairfield Medical Center for treatment after being arrested, but he was able to escape police custody and make his way outside and down this road where he robbed a home and hasn't been seen since. Grove City Police releasing this body cam footage showing suspect 38-year-old Quintel Bagley making a run for it.
Took her car and left, and he was handcuffed.
Terrifying moments for Richard Johnson, who kept his neighbors safe after she came banging on his front door, saying Quintel Bagley robbed her and stole her car.
He didn't hurt her. He didn't do anything like that. He just, took her car and left.
Grove City Police say an officer was hurt chasing him during the escape, but will be fine. Bagley made his way to southeast Columbus before dumping the car and running off.
Felt like an invasion, privacy, and it was different. She was upset, very upset, but she was very brave. She did a good job protecting her children and a good job handling the situation.
Lancaster police investigating the home invasion and theft that happened in the city. Chief Nicholas Snyder says they're working with other departments to catch the suspect.
If there's any evidence or any factual circumstances in that home invasion that could assist in locating Mr. Bagley, we are continuing to do so.
We turned all the outside lights on last night and made sure our basement door and garage doors were down.
Bagley is described as 6 foot, 212 pounds with black hair and brown eyes. If you see him, don't try to talk to him. Just call 911.
We now know tonight the city of Vandalia named its interim city manager. This man here, Mark Schweiderman, will now serve as interim city manager until a permanent one is appointed. Schweiderman served nearly 17 years as city manager in Kettering. His first day in office will be Monday.
Well, most of the Miami Valley is going to be under an air quality alert this weekend. Right now we're sitting at about 64, but over the weekend that's supposed to hit 119. Any reading at 101 or higher is considered unhealthy for sensitive groups, meaning older adults, children, and anyone with respiratory or cardiac diseases should reduce prolonged or heavy exertion. And it is going to get hot as we get through this weekend. But first, we got to get through the weekend. And what do we got on tap here? No rain, that's for sure.
Yeah, no rain. Next week, we'll start to see some pop-up rain chances, but tomorrow is actually going to be really nice.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Just in time for Father's Day. Father's Day weekend.
Right. If maybe you want to celebrate a little bit early tomorrow, it's looking beautiful because we do heat up heading into Father's Day, although most of the heat and humidity is next week. I'll get into that, but for right now, we have temperatures hanging out in the 70s, 60s, 67 in Springfield, 71 Troy, 70 in Greenville right now. We got 70 in Sydney. So it is a very mild evening. Most of us cooler compared to this time yesterday. We had a cold front make its way through, so that's going to cool things off just a little bit. It's not going to be cold by any means, but we will notice a little bit of a difference, especially with our humidity. You could see some of that drier air starting to make its way in. Dew points in the 40s and 50s. That's pretty comfortable for here. Upper 50s further to the south, but we will still feel lower humidity for the day tomorrow before humidity starts to climb again. So for tonight, we'll drop down to 60. Overall, beautiful evening, a little bit cooler with our east-northeasterly wind, 5 to 10 miles per hour.
Hundreds showed up for Kettering's first ever Pride event tonight in Darke Park. A newer organization, Kettering Ohio Pride Coalition, hosted the event. Jenna Lee Bork was there and live in studio tonight with us. So Jenna Lee, what all was going on?
Yeah, Lise, there was a lot going on there. It was everything you would expect from a Pride event. Vendors, food trucks, a drag show, and plenty of people walking around showing their pride. I spoke to a woman who attended with her wife and kids about how the event benefits the community.
If you are living in this town, you see an event like this, then you know that you have people right in your backyard that are supporting you and how you want to live your life.
The Kettering Ohio Pride Coalition has only been around for a little over a year, but it's already managed to put on Kettering's first ever Pride event. Members from the nonprofit have been planning for months, but even they were surprised today at the response.
We said go big or go home. Even I was surprised at how big this is.
I mean, the turnout and the response from the community outside different pride groups has been just overwhelming and amazing, and I just can't believe it took this long for somebody to do it, but we've gotten a positive response.
Hundreds of people came out to the family-friendly event. Food trucks lined the street, and a bubble truck was there for kids to play in. There were a variety of entertainers, from poets to drag queens, who got the crowd energized. Tents of vendors lined Darke Park. They ranged from healthcare to community support to small businesses that were selling whatever their specialty was. One vendor, who's a Kettering native, explained why she wanted to be a part of the event.
Being in the vendor circuit, found the connections and was very interested and excited about doing this show. Since it's so near and dear to my heart and in my hometown, I knew I had to come out and support it any way that I could.
Friday's event marks something new in Kettering's history, and small business owner Lindsay Stamen thinks it means that Kettering is headed in the right direction.
It feels monumental, honestly. It's kind of also double-sided. It's a little shocking that we haven't had one of these before, but I'm so glad that we are progressing in that movement and in that way.
Kettering Ohio Pride Coalition has more coming in the future. One of the bigger projects the organization is working on now is an after-school program for youth. Back to you.
Well, we got some nice weather for our Saturday before things really heat up. I'll time out that heat wave for you coming up. Here's a live look from our Eco-Plumber Skycam. You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.
Here's what I know.
$39.95, only at Jeff Schmidt Mazda in Beaver Creek.
The Department of Justice says it will not prosecute Attorney General Merrick Garland. This is after House Republicans voted to hold Garland in contempt for refusing to hand over audio of the president's interviews with the former special counsel over handling classified documents. Now, the full transcript has been turned over to Congress, but the president exerted executive privilege over the audio. Democrats say Republicans are just not being transparent.
What they really want to do is release it to help Donald Trump misconstrue these recordings, use them during the campaign, and that is not a legitimate purpose.
If you have nothing to fear, then just put the audio tapes out there. I mean, let's have full transparency. That's what it all goes back to, so we have a full record. And, I mean, there's an inquiry that's going on here at this point.
Now, a DOJ official told House Speaker Mike Johnson the department does not prosecute cases of executive privileges.
A live look tonight from our Eco Plumber Skycam. Let's send it out to Chief Meteorologist, or send it into the studio.
Across the studio.
Sorry, across the studio. I'm so used to being
really
on the patio,
far away.
Natalie.
It's really far away.
It is really nice out there too, so it would be a nice evening for the patio, but it's overall a beautiful evening. Temperatures across the area, they're falling after a cold front has made its way through. Comfortable humidity in place too, and high pressure will continue to slide in, which will keep things on the quiet side as well, which we could use some rain, but we'll enjoy some sunshine again for tomorrow. Temperatures in the 70s, 72 Dayton, 70 in Troy. But heading into the overnight hours, we will see temperatures fall into the 60s, actually rebounding to around 80 by the late morning. And then we're talking low mid 80s tomorrow afternoon. That's with lots of sun, low humidity. Sunday, we'll start to see those temperatures creeping back up into the lower 90s even. And then humidity really comes into play as well. So next several days, it's going to be hot as we really look into next week. Close to records. Did keep our Monday a little bit cooler at 95. That being said, still well above, more than 10 degrees above normal. Few degrees away from the record. We'll be very close to breaking records next Wednesday and Thursday. And then factoring in our wind chills, or our heat index, it's going to feel even hotter. So as far as our first 90-degree day, when are we expecting that? Looks like that will likely be on Sunday, which is actually later than the past 3 years, where our earliest date was June 2nd back in 2023. However, we are going to be seeing those temperatures climb, and I'm going to talk about how hot we'll feel coming up in a bit with our 7-day.
Demolition of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School is now underway. Back in 2018, a gunman killed 14 students and 3 faculty members inside the high school. Demolition of the building is expected to take several weeks. Family members of the victims watched from nearby tents.
When the crane hit the building, it just honestly